The silence in the imperial library was a palpable thing, thick with the dust of ages and the weight of unread words. For Leo, the Chartularios, it was a sacred silence. His world was codices and scrolls, the measured, immutable wisdom of Rome. That silence was first broken not by a shout, but by a whisper. A report from a spice merchant in Trebizond, speaking of a trade so smooth, so wordless, it required no haggling, no translators, only a marked stone and a nod. Now, standing before the basileus in the perfumed tension of the Chrysotrachlinos, Leo felt that new, alien silence threatening to swallow his own. "They call it the sand script," the emperor said, his voice calm but his knuckles white on the arm of his throne. "A tribe of horse archers uses it to buy iron from a Caucasian mountain lord. A Persian satrap accepts it as tribute. It is not a language of poetry or prayer. It is a language of value. And it makes our gold solidus feel heavy, slow." The emperor's gaze swept over the three men before him. Leo, whose map was the written word. Karachar, the caravan master from the endless steppe, whose map was the wind and the well. And Darius, the cryptologist from Ctesiphon, a recent and reluctant guest of the court, whose map was the hidden pattern. "Find its source," the emperor commanded. "This is not a mere code. It is a rival empire being built in the spaces between ours. And it conquers without a single sword drawn." Their journey east was a dissection of the old world. In the smoky caravanserai of Ani, Karachar, a man who communicated more with a tilt of his head than a speech, pointed to a pile of sacks. "See the marks, the same as on the stones in Trebizond. It says 30 measures of grain. The price was agreed 1,000 miles away. No arguments, no trust required. Only the mark." Leo's desire was to catalog this threat, to fit it into the empire's understanding, to prove the primacy of the recorded word. He found it heresy. "It is trust in a symbol, not in God or emperor," he muttered, tracing the enigmatic lines in his wax tablet. Darius, his mind alume for unraveling knots, saw something else. "It is not a language to describe things, Kyrios Leo. It is a language to do things, a verb, not a noun. Its grammar is transaction." His desire was intellectual, the pure, cool thrill of solving an impossible puzzle. The threat to Byzantium was to him a fascinating byproduct. Karachar's motivation was the simplest and thus the most profound. The emperor paid in gold, and gold still bought things in this world. He guided them through passes where the wind sang a lonely song, his eyes reading the trails for the story they told of recent passage. The tension built with every league. They found a village where taxes were paid with these marked stones, the local lord's coffers empty of coin. They found a market where a Byzantine gold piece was eyed with suspicion, while a smooth marked river rock changed hands without question. The system was alive, spreading like mycelium through the roots of the known world. The climax came not in a royal court, but in a high, remote valley in the Pamirs. There was no city, no palace, only a circle of felt yurts and a great, flat expanse of white limestone, polished by the wind. On the stone were etched thousands of the marks, a sprawling, communal ledger glowing in the setting sun. A woman, her face weathered by a life at the roof of the world, greeted them. She had no guards, no crown. "You are the architects of the Sanskrit?" Leo asked, his voice trembling with a mixture of outrage and awe. "We are its gardeners," she corrected softly. "It grew from a need. Your empires speak with laws and decrees. They are monologues. The Sanskrit is a conversation. It says only what is. I have this, you have that. We may exchange. It asks for no allegiance to a throne or a god, only to the agreement itself." Darius stared at the stone, his rationalist mind humbled. "It is perfect and perfectly terrifying. You have made a key that unlocks all doors, but asks for no soul in return. Your gold demands we become you to trade with you, the woman said, her eyes on Leo. Our script only asks that we trade. Leo's flaw had been his belief in hierarchy, that knowledge, like power, flowed from a single sacred source. Here was a knowledge that sprang from the many, a decentralized living thing. He had come to trace a source and found a sea. Karachar simply nodded, a practical man to the last. It is a better road, he said, faster, safer. The resolution was not a battle, but a realization. They could not destroy this. To smash the stone would be like trying to hold back the sea with a broom. The idea was already loose, carried on the wind of commerce. They returned to Constantinople, not with a prisoner or a destroyed ledger, but with a truth. In the same throne room, Leo spoke it. We cannot stop it, Basileus. We can only adapt. The Sanskrit does not conquer land, it makes land irrelevant. It does not dethrone kings, it makes their currency a local dialect. The emperor listened, the ambition in his eyes cooling into a grim, timeless calculation. The world had changed in a way his legions could not fight. The war for supremacy was over. The struggle for relevance had begun. Leo walked back into his library, but the silence was different now. It was no longer the silence of accumulated knowledge, but the quiet before a storm. He looked at the shelves of codices, the beautiful, heavy, singular words. Then he picked up a stylus and a clean piece of parchment and began to sketch the elegant, terrifying lines of the Sanskrit. The old empire of words was learning to speak a new, unconquerable language.